Ghost University. Today I'm going to talk about the British soldiers who had nuclear weapons tested on them. They'll tell you about the experience when they were sitting on the ships, how bright the light was. They'll testify that they could see all the bones in their hands and all the veins as well. And they'll go into thorough detail about how often they went through this and what they saw some of the other soldiers go through, including some mental health episodes. They weren't allowed to talk about this for 50 years. And this is something that many governments around the world do, if not all of them. So I'm going to let them take it over. And if I feel the need to jump in, I'll jump in.
When the flash hit you, you could see the x-rays of your hands through your closed eyes. To say it was frightening is an understatement. We were basically used guinea pigs. There's no other word for it.
I wanted to mention that the American government also did this to their soldiers as well. And I'll have that video posted up next. But as far as these British soldiers go, they're absolutely guinea pigs. When the government makes something, they're going to find a way to test it. And many governments around the world do this. It's just a matter of how often it's done. Because they will make it so you can't talk about things like this for 50 years. So somewhere in the British government and the American government, there are files that they can't open and won't open until 50 years go by. And even then, it's not a guarantee. There are two more sets of files that have a 50-year lock on them. They are the files for Martin Luther King, MLK, and the files on John F. Kennedy. Both of those files have 50-year locks on them as well. Kennedy's should have been released by now, but they haven't released them all yet. And I'm going to tell you straight out, the reason that they don't release those files right away is so they can get away with it. That's why they just put them under lock and key, and nobody can know. They say it's for national defense. Well, I mean, what kind of defense is that? It sounds like you're just trying to be sneaky and underhanded and murder people, or at least poison them, or at least give them some sort of psychological issues that now they're going to have to go see a therapist about or a psychologist about, perhaps for the rest of their life, if they can do that. Because remember, they aren't allowed to talk about this for 50 years. So I'm going to let them continue to talk.
The threat of nuclear war hasn't been this high since the Cold War.
We will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea.
To better understand this existential danger, I want to speak to soldiers who've experienced atomic bomb explosions up close. While everyone knows about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, few are aware that an additional 2,000 atomic bombs were detonated after World War II and tested on hundreds of thousands of young soldiers to prepare them for nuclear war. Most nuclear tests were performed by the United States and Russia, but 20,000 British soldiers were also involved. These missions were secret, and up until recently, the veterans weren't allowed to discuss them. Only a few of these men are still alive today. I've been invited to a reunion of atomic veterans in a village near Bristol. The veterans have traveled from all over the country to share their experiences. I wonder if they're more concerned about the threat of nuclear war than my generation is, as they have experienced the power of these weapons firsthand.
And it's 167. 167.
When I arrive, the room is full of old men playing bingo.
Hello, I'm Wester.
Who are you?
I'm Wes.
Wes. It's hard to imagine that they have seen atomic bombs detonate.
It's a bit deaf.
Right, so I'll speak up.
My name is Peter Barnard. I served in the area for 5 years in the Pacific for the weapons testing.
My name is Douglas Hearn. When I was 21 years old, I was sent to Christmas Island and witnessed 5 nuclear detonations. That was the defining point in my life that governed what my life was going to be like from the moment I saw the first one, stood in front of it.
My name is David. At the age of 18, they sent me to the nuclear test site. It was utter devastation.
Didn't know anything about it when we went. We didn't know what we were going to do when we went, only to be told that we would be testing bombs.
We were told nothing. We knew nothing. We were told very little about the day, except don't look at the flash.
When they developed the atomic bomb here in America, they separated the people who were assigned to different parts of the bomb to work in different areas away from each other, nor were they allowed to speak with each other. And they did that because the people who were in charge of the bomb thought that if the people knew what they were making, if the engineers knew what they were making, that they wouldn't want to engineer such a thing. And I agree. They never told those people pretty much until it was done. Unless some of them got together in their own little groups and talked about it, then none of them knew. Secrecy is very big in America because when you're looking at, especially when you're looking at doing such or building such a terrible device that could kill thousands of people, or better yet, leave people with birth defects, or poison the water, or poison the land, or just poison the air in general, leave the air full of radiation, then you wouldn't want to tell people that you were making that. Because people wouldn't want to do that. Not the general public at hand that's all brought together to build a nuclear bomb. People wouldn't want to do that. So they hid it from those people.
Can you describe the day that the nuclear bomb was dropped?
And just before the sun comes up, we were marshalled in groups.
I went out on the aircraft carrier, the Warrior, and we was told to face the stern of the ship, the back of the ship.
We were told to cover our eyes with our hands or bury your eyes into the crook of your arm, which we did.
Looking at this, I would never, ever tell someone to go into the military. I mean, just think about how long ago this was. This was like 70 years ago. And people were happy to be going into the military, thinking you're getting ready to serve your country. And everything is going to be fine and cool. And you'll be looked at as a hero. Not knowing that mentally, you could be destroying your very life by going in here and doing this thing for your country that many people look at as being so brave and noble. I look at it as in that's where people go when they don't have anything else to do with their lives. I know it's a different opinion. Yeah, I know. Not dissing anybody. But if that's where you want to go, then you go ahead and go there. You know, I'm not here to tell people what to do with their lives. That's just my opinion. So there isn't any way I would advocate that people go here. I'm sure this is the actual footage of what happened. Is that there are people in the back that are standing up. Perhaps they're not taking this thing very seriously. It's probably the first time that anyone has been through such a blast. But, you know, this was before the Nuremberg trials. So perhaps they didn't have anyone to go to, because if they tell you can't talk about this ever, then how do you go find yourself a lawyer? Is there such thing as finding a lawyer when the military branches have told you you can't talk about this? What were the laws and codes of conduct for when you've been treated like a guinea pig. I don't know. I mean, I just wasn't signed up for this sort of thing, because you're definitely a crash test dummy. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts, or maybes about it. Look at them. They're all just as obedient, but hey, once they get you on the ship, where are you gonna go? You're certainly not gonna jump in the water. I mean, maybe once the bomb itself explodes and you're scared to death, waiting for the Grim Reaper to come get you. Like, that's a blessing all of a sudden. I wish the Grim Reaper would hurry up and get here. This is terrifying. I have a lot of compassion for these people who go into the military, and especially the ones that are the guinea pigs. No doubt about it.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To say it was frightening is an understatement. I think it shocked us all into silence. When the flash hit you, you could see the x-rays of your hands through your closed eyes.
It was just sheer brilliant light. So I've never seen anything like it, never had done.
In the process of hands over your eyes, you saw every bone in your hand.
If I was looking at you now, I would see all your bones. You would see all the blood vessels and everything, the bones a lot.
Then the heat hit you, and that was just as if somebody my size had actually caught fire, then walked through me. It was an experience that was absolutely unearthing. It was so strange.
Some of the lads would stand up, but about 30 odd seconds later, you'd get the blast, and the blast would knock you flying.
And there were guys with bruises and broken limbs. We couldn't believe it.
After a while, we were told that we could now stand and look up and watch the mushroom form.
You caught sight of the side of it at 90 degrees. It was that huge. It wasn't there, it wasn't there, it was there. It was practically above you.
All they saw was this rising fireball, a colossal fireball just going up, and thunder, lightning, you name it.
What I noticed most was the clouds moving away like that, round and round and round.
I think it was too much for some of them, and some of them would cry and ask for their mum. That was awful.
There was no comprehension that anything like that could even exist. It was immense.
It's a sight to see, but never want to see it again.
Over a 10-year test period, there were 22,500 personnel. In 2013, we estimated that 18,500 of us had died. And the reports that I'd seen, nobody had died practically of natural causes. They all died of leukemias and cancers and carcinomas of one sort or the other.
Does this correspond to what radiation does to a human body?
The thing is, guys couldn't have children. People's children suffer from numerous ailments and things that come out, twisted bones.
How did it affect you and your children?
I married when I got back to the UK, and my first daughter was born in 1960. And sadly, by the time she was 11, she developed a problem which completely changed her appearance. She grew a hump on her back. She started to grow hair all over her body. We had to shave her twice a day. She sadly passed away in my arms.
My youngest daughter, I think, is the worst. She's had everything wrong. everything, and it's still going wrong. She lost all her teeth, same as I did. I lost all my teeth. Within a short space of time, they all went black.
I had cancer on my face that came up here. You can't see the scar. It's only a little pimple, but it was cancer. And it was also on my back. And the other thing which devastated me, took me a long time to recover from this. And I will never forgive the authorities for putting me in this situation. I couldn't have children.
No amount of compensation from the government, no amount of therapy can completely fix the damage that has been done to these men's lives. I mean, you know, you can think you should have known better. But there was a time when people didn't really know any better. But 70 years later, we have these sort of documentaries and documentation to tell us about the horrors of being experimented on through your own government. We all need to be careful and pay attention to these things, because you think when you go in there, you're one of their own, but you're not. You're not as good as the top brass in the military if you're just a foot soldier. They're going to treat you bad. Not completely bad across the board. There really isn't a such thing that everybody in the military is treated like crap, or that everybody's experimented on. But when you do get experimented on, it's technically only your fault. And that's the thing that I'm sure these people have to grapple with the most. It's perhaps that they should have known better. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of grief that comes along with that. But I'll let them continue.
How do younger people respond to what you experienced?
First of all, we were not allowed to talk about it. And it was a good number of years before we were even allowed to talk about our experience. We were never allowed to talk about our duties out there.
Did you, after this happened, speak about it with your mates?
No.
Family? No?
No.
So I don't want anybody to know what we done and how we done it.
The veterans say they were sworn to secrecy and couldn't talk about it until the late 90s. Not even with their families. If they did, it would amount to treason and they'd face a prison sentence.
We had no compassion from anybody. We had no help from anybody. And we still have very little. And for a government to do that to its own people is absolutely disgraceful. It's outrageous.
Does it feel good to now be able to talk about it?
Well, it helps, doesn't it? To get over it.
You're still getting over it?
Yeah.
What would you say to our generation? How should we go about this nuclear threat?
Our generation doesn't know, do they? They don't know what's happening. My wife sometimes says to the hospital, he's been under 2 bombs. And they think, who's that silly old fool? You know, what's he romancing about his being a bomb testing site? They have no idea. They have no idea about anything.
I think young people ought to be educated to the events that took place in those 10 years.
The onus is now on the young people who are coming to take our place to get rid of these weapons. You know, because you're the people who have got to deal with it. And the younger generations that come behind you, with the rights of education, they will do that.
Hearing about the suffering nuclear weapons have caused the veterans and their families, and how they were manipulated and lied to by their government, makes me wonder if we're naive to think today's leaders will act more responsibly. The veterans say it's up to the younger generations now. But will they take action, and can leaders be influenced?
Closing up this chapter, the one man said that it's disgraceful and outrageous for a country to do this to its own people. I agree. And so not only did this happen in the UK, but this also happened in America. And it's disgraceful and outrageous here. They said they couldn't tell their family. They got no help, which is just wild. Look at how they treat you for you to end up with no help. You'll spend a lifetime thinking after you've been through that, and you live to be that old. From 18 to 65 to 70 years old, and 80 years old thinking, what the hell was I doing? But again, people make it out to be so noble that you go serve in the military. Not so sure if that's noble. It's brave, but it's not really that noble. I'm not saying we don't need a standing military. I believe we do. But to test weapons on our own is, like he said, it's just disgraceful and outrageous. I don't know what they've done now, including right now, to stop this sort of thing from happening, because I'm sure it's still happening. There are other government operations that have taken place, like Operation Midnight Climax. There was Operation Mockingbird. There's MK. There was the MK Ultra program. There was the Phoenix program. There's Operation Northwoods. Northwoods didn't happen, but if you go look at the things in Operation Northwoods, I made a video about that. Maybe you can compare that with other things that have actually happened in the world. Because, like I said, officially, Northwoods didn't happen, though there are those who think that Northwoods happened in 2001. There was another project, too, that I think people should be aware of, or at least a book, a rumored government book, like a code book, called Bluebeam, Project Bluebeam. You guys should go look all those things up. There was Operation Gladio. The government has spies who work in the news sector, in media, all over the place. And they run with the official government story. But what happens when the government is just trying to trick you or experiment on your mind, in this case? Basically psychological warfare or ideological subversion or behavioral modification. There are a lot of things that are happening out here that I believe people need to be aware of. And that's why these guys said, it's up to the younger generation now. I agree with that. Lastly, the idea of getting rid of nuclear weapons. I do believe we're going to get rid of nuclear weapons. But the weapons that they have after this, because they're not just going to stop making weapons, will be just as bad and cause just as much damage to humanity as nuclear weapons do. Energy weapons will be the weapons of the future, where you won't even see anything, but you'll definitely feel the heat coming. But anyway, go check out all the operations I mentioned. There are plenty of books written about those things. There are books written about the FBI and the CIA. There are books written about CIA blowback. Blowback is when you go into a country and you start to help them, even under the veil, only to have it blow up in your face because everything goes to the left, and before you know it, you have a war on your hands, a civil war on your hands in whatever country you decide to go help at the time. Though in the end, I believe the people who run the CIA, they want civil wars in countries. So then they can put in the people that they want to run the country. America can put in the people who they want to run the country, whatever president, prime minister, whoever. But anyway, Ghost University. like, comment, subscribe.